Hey there, fellow aviation enthusiasts! Let's talk about some gnarly weather conditions that pilots should totally avoid. Trust me, you don't want to mess with these bad boys. First, we got thunderstorms, and they're like the bullies of the sky. They can throw lightning, hail, and crazy winds at your plane. So steer clear of them, or risk getting a beatdown. Thunderstorms are no joke, and you definitely don't want to mess with them. They can pop up out of nowhere and cause some serious trouble. We're talking strong winds, heavy rain, lightning, and thunder. Not exactly a party in the sky. But wait, it gets worse. The lightning can mess with your instruments and systems, and hail can damage your ride. So keep an eye on those weather reports and forecasts. If you see a thunderstorm coming your way, try to fly around it or above it. And if you can't avoid it, slow down and stay at a safe altitude to minimize turbulence. Next up, icing. No, we're not talking about icing on the cake here. This is when your plane gets frozen over, which is a total bummer because it makes it harder to fly. So avoid areas where this might happen, or bust out your anti-icing gear. You know that creepy feeling when you can't see your hand in front of your face? Yeah, that's what fog does to your visibility. Don't fly into it unless you want to play hide and seek with the runway. Flying in fog means pilots got to be extra careful and rely on their instruments to navigate. They can't just wing it with their eyes like you normally would. They got to make sure they follow instrument procedures and stay away from other planes. Strong winds can be pretty nasty too. Think of strong winds as the annoying little brother of weather conditions. They can make your plane bounce around like a ball in a pinball machine. Avoid them if you can, or learn how to land like a boss with some crosswind skills. Seriously though, these weather conditions can be dangerous and cause accidents. So stay informed and make smart decisions when you're up in the sky. Happy flying!
Well, here's quite a list for you. Yellow fever, malaria, Zika. These are just a few of the nasties you might pick up if you fly in shorts. Sure, the cabin might look clean, but check it out under a microscope and you'll see a different story. Take seatback trays. They're gross, with over 2,100 colony-forming units per square inch. Who knows how clean the actual seats are? Airlines aren't exactly shouting about how often they deep clean. Probably not more than every 1 to 3 months. Now, if you think planes get a good scrub down before every flight, think again. Every minute of delay costs an airline about $100, so there's not much time for a thorough cleaning. The crew does what they can, but wearing shorts is still a bad idea. You'll expose your skin to all that grime, and let's face it, you won't jump in the shower the second you get off the plane. So do yourself a favor and wear clothes that cover your skin. Plus, sometimes it gets excessively cold on a plane, so shorts will make you ask for a blanket on a plane. Now, listen closely, you don't want to do that. Those pillows and blankets are reused constantly and not always cleaned thoroughly. Let's just say short turnaround times between flights make proper washing unlikely. But even if they are, airlines use industrial detergents to wash pillows and blankets. You see what I'm driving at? Either make sure to wear proper clothing or bring your own blanket. If there's something you should totally wear on a plane, it's slippers. Yep, the ones you snagged from the hotel the last time you traveled. They're a lifesaver when you want to ditch your uncomfortable shoes but don't want to flash your socks, no matter how cute. Slippers are easy to slide on and off, making them perfect for those mid-flight bathroom trips. At the end of the flight, you can toss the slippers away. No muss, no fuss. During takeoff and landing, the air pressure changes super quickly, which can lead to ear discomfort and muffled hearing, something called barytitis. Simple things like yawning, chewing, or swallowing can help your ears adjust to the pressure. But if you're asleep, you're not doing any of that, so your ears will struggle. Plus, takeoff and landing are when most accidents happen, so it's crucial to stay alert and be ready for anything. And your ears will thank you. Now, not every life hack you see online is worth trying. Take this one that went viral on TikTok. Millions of viewers watch passengers pulling their knees up to their chests, feet at the edge of their seats, with a seatbelt fastened around their feet. But you shouldn't do that. First off, it's against the rules. Official guidelines say seatbelts should be worn properly across your lap. Next, in this position, a sudden impact could force your face or chin into your knees. Plus, a properly worn seatbelt helps you keep restrained during sudden altitude drops, preventing you from being thrust upwards. Finally, if you injure yourself or others by sitting this way, you could be held liable for any costs incurred, like if the plane has to make an emergency diversion. Well, you know the drill. Tray tables up, seat backs upright. But why is this so important? It's not just an airline preference, it's the law, according to the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations. The thing is, upright seats provide more structural support during impact. A reclined seat can act like a catapult during a sudden stop, projecting you forward or slam you backward in case of sudden acceleration. Takeoff, approach, and landing are the riskiest phases. About 67% of fatal accidents happen during these times. Cruising is the safest phase, so feel free to recline once you're at altitude. Now, in case of an emergency on a plane, you'll only have around 90 seconds to evacuate. Dimming the cabin lights during takeoff and landing when it's dark outside is all about safety. This helps your eyes adjust to the darkness, making it easier to evacuate if needed. It can take up to 30 minutes for our eyes to fully adapt to low light, and having sharp vision can be a lifesaver in an emergency. Plus, with your eyes adjusted, you'll see the floor lights guiding you to the exits more clearly. On the flip side, if it's bright outside, the cabin lights stay on so that you're not blinded upon exit. These small details make a big difference in creating the best conditions for a quick evacuation. You'll also notice flight attendants asking passengers to close tray tables, stow bags, and put seats upright. This clears the pathways to the exits, and they might ask you to open your window shade so they can spot any external hazards like fire or debris that could hinder an emergency evacuation. Well, it's time to have lunch. Well, sadly on a plane it won't be as yummy as back on Earth. But why does food taste a bit off when you're flying? Let's first figure out how we perceive the taste of food. It's not only about your mouth, it's also about your nose. The dry air and pressure changes in the cabin can reduce your taste bud sensitivity by about 30%, making food taste different in the air than it does on the ground. As for your nose, well, let's just say it has a hard time distinguishing flavors when the air humidity is only 12%. In total, there are 5 basic tastes: saltiness, sweetness, bitterness, sourness, and that savory flavor often called umami, which is Japanese for delicious taste. The 2 tastes that get especially weak when flying are saltiness and sweetness, which is why airlines often over-season their meals. To make airplane food, if not yummy but at least edible, cooks must add up to 20% more salt. By the way, it's not just about the altitude or pressure. That loud background noise can also make food taste less salty and sweet. While traveling, relax and breathe, my friend. Despite what you might think, aircraft air quality is actually better than in many other communal spaces. About 40% of the air is filtered through a HEPA system, and the rest comes from outside. This means the air is completely changed every 3 minutes, catching 99.97% of airborne particles. Sounds very safe, right? Well, almost. Look at those overhead air vents. As for colony-forming units, there are 285, just 285. For comparison, an average keyboard has over 3.5 million CFUs per square inch. So those nozzles are relatively clean. Still, you never know when they were last wiped down, so keep hand sanitizer nearby just in case. In any event, the overhead air vent can help keep germs away, so it's good to have some fresh air blowing in the stuffy cabin. Now, while your plane is taking off and landing, it's a must to stay seated. But actually, staying glued to your seat for the duration of the entire flight is more of a bad idea. You see, we all need our blood to circulate nicely around the body. Sure thing you aren't supposed to walk to and fro, but standing up for some time is a good idea, especially if you have an aisle seat and there's no one to block your way. If you're blocked in the middle or window seat, just make sure to stretch your legs. We've chatted about this before. To protect your ears, it's best not to sleep at certain times on a plane. But here's another tip to keep your eyes happy too. Whenever you're flying, go for glasses instead of contact lenses. The dry air on airplanes can be super harsh on your eyes. If it's your first time flying, you might not realize how bad it can feel, and taking out your contact lenses mid-flight can be a real problem.
Seat pockets on planes are mostly filled with in-flight magazines, a plane safety guide, and information about the airline. But they're also home to all sorts of trash, grime, and bacteria that just don't belong there. A passenger coughs into a tissue or wipes their runny nose with a handful of them, but instead of immediately getting rid of them, it gets placed into the seat back pocket. Now another passenger comes along on the very next flight, sitting in that same exact seat. With limited space around them, putting some of their belongings into the pockets leads to potentially millions of germs spreading significantly to them. It's no wonder that these seats' back pockets can get so nasty. Everybody puts their trash inside of them. Passengers often leave uneaten candy bars, diapers, apple cores, and nuts. This leaves crumbs and other matters everywhere. All of this trash is taken out before the next flight, but they're rarely ever deeply cleaned. It's all dependent on the airline itself as to how often they'll really clean the plane and wipe everything down properly. The plastic tray tables where we eat and place our things are one of, if not, the dirtiest parts of any airplane. These seatback tray tables that we use can have over 2,000 CFUs, colony-forming units of bacteria, per square inch living on their surface. The ridged texture keeps cups of soda from sliding off the table, also creating tiny mountain ranges where the microbes attach themselves. Sugary sodas and juices that spill onto tray tables throughout flights give bacteria the perfect environment to stay and feed. Bacteria love living on this plastic almost as much as human skin. And there are lots of microbes that your tray catches and holds onto, especially when they're not thoroughly cleaned. Much like air vents that are always fiddled with, seatbelt buckles are probably the most touched thing on any aircraft. The average buckle can contain nearly 1,000 colony-forming units of bacteria per square inch on it at all times. Passengers touch seatbelt buckles to go to the bathroom. Even after washing their hands, people will walk down the aisle touching all the headrests for balance to get to their seat. After settling in and buckling up, most will then touch their face, eyes, phone, and even food for the rest of the trip. Airports can be big virus spreaders, but they're cleaned constantly. The same cannot be said for the subway, buses, or even taxis. Subway door handles, luggage carts, chairs, seats, and poles are very rarely cleaned and are a breeding ground for all sorts of nasties. New York City's subway system is one of the dirtiest in the world, with a mind-boggling 2 million bacteria colonies per square inch on nearly every surface. Many of these have still yet to be identified. They're that rare. It goes with you everywhere, sometimes even into the bathroom. As a result, cell phones could be up to 10 times dirtier than any toilet seat. E. coli, the bacteria that can give stomach cramps and fevers, can live for hours on warm surfaces like phones. The best solution? Wash your hands thoroughly before touching phones, and make sure that phone gets a good wipe down with a disinfectant. Most people have a smartphone by them day and night, meaning that all the bacteria picked up during the day is transferred to them. Everyone touches the remote control at some point, but it isn't even thought of when cleaning the house. It falls to the floor or gets into the side of the sofa, a warm, dark home for mold and bacteria, where there are lots of crumbs and grime. A good clean with an antibacterial wipe every so often will help keep it shiny and germ-free. Blowing out candles on a birthday cake can expel a mist of saliva that always lands on the birthday cake frosting. This can lead to some very unhappy birthday parties if someone is sick. Sometimes it's better to skip the candles altogether, or accept the risk that every day is someone's birthday celebration, and a little bit of spit won't always hurt you. A single ATM gets touched by hundreds of people in a day. The chances that at least one of those people touching the buttons is sick and freely spreading the flu or cold is naturally quite high then. The flu, for example, can live up to 2 days on objects. It can even be days after someone has recovered from that virus that it'd still be active and spreadable. ATMs are cleaned, but not all the time. It would be impossible to service every single one in a major city daily. A single dollar bill can be home to thousands of different kinds of bacteria, including the usual suspects like E. coli, staph, and a bacterium that causes acne breakouts. Paper money can reportedly carry more germs than a household toilet, and bills are a hospitable environment for gross microbes. The smaller in value of the bill, the dirtier it will be because it's in circulation more. Money can't be cleaned like a lot of things, but taking it to a bank for new, hopefully cleaner bills is possible. Use hand sanitizer and wash your hands after handling money too, just in case. Grocery store shopping carts can have more bacteria on them than what's ever been found in public restrooms. That includes toilet seats and the flushing handles. Cleansing wipe dispensers have been appearing at many major grocery chains, and some stores even go the extra mile to clean them after the day's through. But these simply aren't enough to keep up with the petri dish that the handles are. With over 100,000 bacteria per square inch, it's nearly impossible to keep them clean. Toothbrush holders hold onto moisture and are rarely cleaned, making them one of the dirtiest things in our homes. It can be filled with salmonella, E. coli, and lots of mold over time when it's not getting cleaned regularly. Wash your toothbrush holder in hot, soapy water every week to minimize the chances of getting sick. Toothbrushes should be changed every 3 to 4 months for a very good reason. It takes a while for the toothbrush to dry. This creates the perfect home for mold and fungus to spread and grow. There can be more than 600 different kinds of bacteria living inside of your mouth. A kiss alone can transfer about 80 million bacteria from one mouth to another. A good brushing routine will have around 1,000 to 100,000 bacteria living on each tooth's surface. But for those that don't brush, bacteria can be up to 100 million or 1 billion bacteria on each tooth. The dirtiest thing in our home can only be one thing: the kitchen sponge. It's wet, absorbent, and food and dirt are rubbed into it all the time. Then we wipe down our kitchen tops just to spread all that grubbiness around some more. Sponges are very hard to keep clean. The best way to keep things sanitary is to replace it when it starts to smell bad. It's no surprise that if the sponges are filthy, then sinks are too. Rinsed fruit, vegetables, prepared raw meat, and dishes needing cleaning all make their way to the kitchen sink. This creates an extremely high breeding ground for E. coli, salmonella, and many other gross things. They'll stick to the sides and drain holes and grow like crazy. Clean sinks before and after each use, and make sure to keep them as dry as possible to prevent any mold growth as well. Restaurant menus and condiment dispensers aren't cleaned nearly as often as they should be. If someone with a cold was using the condiments right before you, this greatly increases the chance of the cold-causing bacteria being on your hands and then your fries. Menus are rarely washed with disinfectants after each use. Customers have been touching quite a few things like chairs, tables, their faces, or hair before they give the menus back. Dog toys need to be cleaned regularly to prevent any bacteria or mold growth from spreading too much. Each time a dog slobbers on a toy, they don't just transfer their mouth bacteria. They've created a sticky, wet place for other germs to live on. There's no way of telling just what their favorite plaything has picked up around the house or yard. Purses and bags could have more bacteria than we really considered. They're regularly placed on dirty floors, bathroom floors, countertops, and out on the street. This exposes them to all sorts of germs, like salmonella, E. coli, mold, and fungus, all the time. Alcohol wipes are very good to carry around in your purse or bag to give them a good wipe down when needed. Drinking fountains are a cesspool of bacteria and germs. Over 2 million bacteria per square inch can be found on the fountain's faucets alone. As they get wet and touched by hundreds of hands, the bacteria and mold begin to grow. If someone has coughed or sneezed near it recently, those particles will cling onto the water. This creates a higher chance of the next person drinking from it catching something.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just landed at Illuminati headquarters. Denver International Airport. You know, this place has earned a reputation as one of the most conspiracy-laden airports out there. First off, people claim it's an Illuminati headquarters. Apparently, it ended up costing way more than they initially said it would and took ages to build. Conspiracy buffs have jumped on this, suggesting that mysterious Illuminati funds helped to get the project across the finish line in exchange for some secret access to the airport's inner workings. There's even a theory that the first 5 buildings were so badly constructed, instead of tearing them down, they just buried them and built new ones on top, creating a hidden underground base for the Illuminati. Another theory connects Denver Airport to the end of the world. It's not a secret, there are underground tunnels, a train zipping between the concourses, and a baggage system that doesn't quite work anymore. But some people think there's a more sinister purpose behind all this. They speculate that the tunnels could be hiding bunkers for the world's elite to ride out the apocalypse. Really? Now, while we're on the subject of the apocalypse, have you heard about the airport's infamous symbol? Officially, it's called Mustang, but most people know it as Blucifer. This gigantic 32-foot fiberglass horse has glowing red eyes that some interpret as a nod to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and there's a theory that the sculpture is cursed. Its creator, Luis Jimenez, tragically passed away in 2006 when a part of the 9,000-pound statue fell on him, severing an artery. Some say the eyes didn't start glowing red until after Jimenez passed away, fueling all kinds of wild ideas about what Blucifer is really up to. Never mind that the local Denver football team are called the Broncos, a nickname for a bucking horse. Then there are the rumors about Notre Denver that features 2 gargoyle statues keeping an eye on the baggage claim area. Sure, they might look a little ominous, but historically, gargoyles have been used in architecture to ward off evil spirits. According to the airport itself, those gargoyles, peeking out of open suitcases, were actually installed to protect travelers' belongings. However, all those conspiracy theories seem trivial when confronted with the truth. The reality is stark. Certain airports are essentially graveyards. Take the Savannah Hilton Head Airport in Georgia, for example. Here, hundreds of flights take off daily, but beneath the rumble of tires on the tarmac lie the resting places of 2 people from the 19th century. Positioned at the edge of runways 10 and 28, the graves of Catherine and Richard Dotson are embedded in the asphalt. This couple, born in 1779, passed away in 1877 and 1884, respectively. Long before the airport was even envisioned, the Dotsons farmed the land, then known as Cherokee Hills, and, as was customary at the time, they were laid to rest on their property together. Now, these were not the only confirmed graves. Previously, there were more graves, unknown ones, but they were then removed. The thing about the Dotsons' land was the family cemetery, which originally contained around 100 graves. According to the airport's website, 2 additional graves, belonging to Daniel Hudson and John Dotson, relatives of Catherine and Richard, are nestled among the shrubs not far from the airport's busiest runway. As for Catherine and Richard, their final resting place lies directly beneath the airport's main runway, which sees an average of 309 planes taking off every day. Now, the airport in Bangkok, Thailand, does not have a very good reputation either. The reason for this is straightforward. It was built on a site that was once an ancient graveyard. It's widely acknowledged that it is best to leave the resting places of the deceased undisturbed, yet those in charge overlooked this rule, resulting in a heavy price. The problems began during construction. The project faced unexpected challenges, including soaring costs and delays. Workers reported feeling unsettled by the atmosphere on site, with some claiming to have seen the Blue Man wandering the premises. Reports noted sightings of an unrestful spirit with a blue face and a frail, elderly appearance. After that, the construction continued and unusual incidents began to plague the staff. These may be rumors, but some people claim they heard mysterious footsteps and traditional music echoing through the empty halls at night. One manager recounted a near miss when he was startled by a strangely dressed woman clutching a baby who vanished without a trace. A security guard claimed to have encountered the old man himself, describing him as having a strange glow around his head and appearing to walk with a stick. The guard called out to him, but the old man vanished before he could ask for next week's winning lottery numbers. In an attempt to quell the ominous atmosphere, 99 monks were summoned to exorcise any lingering spirits from the site. Now, what I have to say is a bit of an urban legend, so it's up to you whether to believe it or not. They say the monks' 9-week ritual culminated in a dramatic scene when an elderly man, who identified himself as Pu Ming, sharing the same name attributed to the blue-faced ghost, approached them. After the monks blessed him with holy water, he appeared to regain his composure. Despite these efforts, tales of hauntings continue to circulate today, with travelers occasionally reporting sightings of ghosts at the airport. Chicago's O'Hare International Airport has its ghosts too. If you've ever flown through this one, you may have noticed an unusual detail. The terminals are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 5, leaving out number 4 entirely. Why? Did anything unspeakable happen there? Well, relax. This time, there's nothing spooky. If you study a map of O'Hare, you'll see that there's simply no room for Terminal 4 now. Terminals 1, 2, and 3 serve mostly domestic flights and are interconnected, while Terminal 5, which handles international flights, is situated in a separate building that requires a transfer bus. Still, Terminal 4 did exist for a brief period, but was operational for less than 10 years. Before 1985, O'Hare consisted of just 3 terminals, with Terminal 1 serving international passengers. As demand for international travel grew, the airport needed to accommodate more flights, leading to the construction of Terminal 4. Unfortunately, shortly after opening, Terminal 4 faced significant design problems. It was inadequate to manage the volume of flights and struggled with bus traffic. To remedy these issues, airport planners redesigned the facility, and in 1993, Terminal 4 was replaced by the upgraded Terminal 5. Though Terminal 4 now houses the airport's bus depot, O'Hare officials opted not to reuse the terminal's name due to potential confusion among travelers who might mistakenly look for the old Terminal 4. Duluth International Airport, located in where else, Duluth, Minnesota, is known as one of the city's most eerie sights. The airport is said to be inhabited by the spirit of a woman whose life was tragically claimed in the vicinity. Security personnel have reported encountering her apparition multiple times, and there are reports of unexplained phenomena, such as security alarms inexplicably activating and doors mysteriously opening and closing on their own. The haunting is believed to stem from the woman's quest for vengeance, as it is thought that the person who took her life sought refuge in the airport after committing the crime. This connection may explain her restless spirit, as she continues to search for him, seeking closure for her untimely demise. Meanwhile, Honolulu International Airport first opened its doors almost a century ago. Due to Hawaii's remote location, the airport experiences significant passenger and ghost traffic. Known as the Lady in Waiting, this spectral blonde woman in a white dress has been seen throughout the airport, particularly near the gates. Legend has it that she lost her life after a fiancé departed on a flight, never to return. In addition to the Lady in Waiting, the airport is rumored to host other minor hauntings. Travelers have reported encountering a ghost on the Wiki Wiki shuttle. Dubbed the Choking Ghost, this spirit is known for creating the sensation of being smothered or having someone sit heavily on one's chest. There are also anecdotal accounts of toilets flushing inexplicably, although some may find that more amusing than unsettling. But other than that, Honolulu Airport and Hawaiian Airlines in general are very safe. They hold the title of the oldest airline still in operation that has never been involved in a fatal accident. Hey, sign me up.
A shadow is cast when you have an object in the path of light. Light travels in a straight line, which is why you always get a shadow when something's in front of a light source. Birds and airplanes are no exception. They do cast shadows, but we can't see them. The closer the object to a source of light, the denser its shadow, and vice versa. If If the object is too far away, its shadow disperses. A commercial airplane flies at 35,000 to 40,000 feet. At such a height, you barely see the plane, let alone its shadow. It's too far from the Earth's surface, so its shadow is scattered and you can't see it. The same goes for birds. But if there was a giant asteroid passing by the Earth, you'd see its shadow, based on the same principle by which lunar and solar eclipses work. A solar eclipse is when the moon is directly between the Earth and the sun, blocking the sun's rays. That casts a shadow on some parts of the Earth. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also 400 times closer to our planet than the star, which is why they seem the same size in the sky. But since the moon is smaller, its shadow is not big enough to cover the whole Earth, so it's only cast to some parts of it. Lightning is never a triangle, straight line, or circle. It has a zigzag shape. Lightning is an electric current, like those you have in your house, except this one is much more powerful. It always takes the path of least resistance. There are lots of things in the air, like dust particles, gases, and other substances, so it's uneven and irregular. Let's say you have a mound of sand. When you pour water, it won't flow downward in a straight line, but in specific patterns, seeking the best way through the sand. The same happens with lightning. Antarctica has icebergs that look like giant ocean waves frozen in motion. Despite their appearance, these formations are created over long periods of time. The ice got lifted, compacted, and shaped by the wind and other elements, accidentally taking the wave shape in the end. Blood Falls is a glacier in Antarctica that pours out some sort of red liquid that looks like blood. Scientists say it happens because there's a salty lake with a large iron content under the glacier. Salt water freezes at a lower point than fresh water, so it melts the ice above, letting the river flow. This is the coldest glacier on our planet, which is why the water can constantly flow without melting it. And the red color is because of the iron in the water. Antarctica is the only continent where you can't find reptiles. They're cold-blooded, which means they depend on heat from their environment to keep their bodies warm and can't survive in cold, icy regions such as Antarctica. Penguins can relax. No snakes or crocodiles to bother them there. Only a quarter of the Sahara territory is sand. There are mountains and oases, but most of the desert is covered in gravel. And it's not the biggest desert on Earth. Antarctica is. Just like people, trees also stop growing at a certain age. Scientists think this could be because when a tree gets old and reaches a certain height, it has trouble pulling water from the soil and pumping it all the way to the top because of gravity. Some trees, like the baobab, start growing out instead of up when they get to their full height. The baobab expands up to 0.4 inches every year. Australia is atop of one of the world's fastest moving tectonic plates. It moves 2.5 inches northward every year, which is about the rate our fingernails and hair grow. If you feel like trying to find something to watch on TV is just wasting your life, studies agree. The average person spends 1.3 years flipping between channels and trying to find something worthy of their attention. You can see a rainbow at night, too. It's a rare phenomenon called a lunar rainbow, or moonbow, and it appears when moonlight is reflected and dispersed through moisture and water droplets in the atmosphere. Lunar rainbows mostly occur in areas with high rainfall, or even near waterfalls surrounded by mist. When you crack an egg on land, it can turn into a mess, but 60 feet under the ocean, there's 2.8 times the atmospheric pressure on the egg, which is why it holds together like there's an invisible shell, and looks like some sort of weird jellyfish. Stars don't actually twinkle. Their light is constant and steady, but when it interferes with Earth's atmosphere, it bumps and bounces through the air, which bends the light. Different layers of air are constantly moving, which changes the bending of the light too, so it looks like twinkling. Hudson Bay, Canada is the area where gravity is lower than in other parts of our planet. It's not like people there are free-floating like in space, but it may feel like some sort of a natural geographical diet. Lower gravity leads to less density, so you'd weigh less there than anywhere else. Gravity depends on the density of the Earth, so it's uneven. When the last ice age hit, Hudson Bay was covered by a 2-mile thick glacier. It was heavy, so it kept pushing down on the rock underneath it. Over 20,000 years ago, the glaciers began to melt, but the bay region was left deformed due to heavy ice that used to be there. The only sport someone played on the moon was golf. In 1971, an astronaut went to the moon and hit 2 golf balls, sending them flying through the low-gravity atmosphere on the lunar surface. The Great Wall of China is 5,000 miles long, so it would take you about 18 months to walk its length. Contrary to popular belief, you can't see it from space with your bare eyes. Lobsters are not biologically immortal. They age through time, but also produce a special enzyme that's in charge of repairing their cells. It also replicates their DNA indefinitely, so they can live for a very, very long time. If you went to the deepest part of the ocean, you'd feel an incredibly strong pressure, more than 8 tons per square inch, which is like having 50 jumbo jets lying on top of you. The sun is the biggest object you can find in our solar system. While there are so many rocky planets, gas giants, asteroids, and dwarf planets, the sun still makes up 99.8% of the total mass of our system. The sun is in the most stable stage of its life cycle at the moment, but in around 5 billion years, it will run out of hydrogen, its fuel. We can see sunsets because the atmosphere of our planet acts like a prism. Science calls it scattering. There's more distance between us and the sun at the time of sunset, meaning more particles and molecules are in the air. They scatter some of the short wavelength violet and blue light off in different directions. This process happens millions of times before the beam of sunlight gets to our eyes, and that's when we see some other colors of the spectrum, such as orange or yellow. Tsunamis can reach a speed of more than 500 miles per hour, which is as fast as a jet plane. They retain the energy, which means they can move across the ocean and almost not lose energy at all until they reach the shore. Octopuses are some of the most intelligent creatures in the sea. They navigate through mazes, solve problems, and have pretty good short-term memory. Scientists believe they're so smart because they live a pretty dynamic life. They move fast, hide in unpredictable places, expand across new habitats, move in unusual patterns, and let their tentacles into crevices for food. This is all challenging enough for their brain to develop all the time. The famous heads, known as Maui statues on Easter Island, have bodies too. They're just hidden beneath the surface. There are also 900 Maui statues on the island. Scientists discovered New Zealand is part of a larger landmass that lies under the water. 94% of the total land is under the surface. It's called Zealandia and is considered to be a microcontinent. Maybe it'll even be the 8th on the list someday.
Now imagine the scene. You arrive at the airport in Hawaii a bit earlier and decide to chill in the waiting area. Suddenly, you notice an anxious blonde lady in a white dress standing at a gate. She's looking out the window on the runway, waiting for someone's arrival. You reach into your bag for some chocolate to comfort her. But it's too late. She vanished into thin air. Congratulations! You just met the lady in waiting, a resident phantom of the Honolulu International Airport. Like any phantom, she has a grim backstory. The lady once fell in love with a man and he promised to marry her. But then the happy groom flew abroad and never returned to his bride. His betrayal broke her heart and she took her own life. But her phantom is still attached to the airport, and she waits for her man to return just like the famous Japanese dog Hachiko waited for its master. Over the years, the local police have collected numerous complaints about the lady phantom wandering around the gates and other restricted areas of the airport. Also, this entity likes to hang out in public bathrooms, just like Moaning Myrtle from the iconic fantasy novel. Some airport employees reported seeing paper dolls unfolding on their own while cleaning empty bathrooms in the middle of the night. In some cases, toilet seats slam shut and toilets flush by themselves. However, it's unlikely to surprise anyone since many public bathrooms have automatic flushing. Unfortunately, this urban legend doesn't clarify the way to release the heartbroken phantom. But at least this story is a good reminder to think twice before you make any promises. And speaking of spooky ladies in white, the Kempegowda International Airport in India also has one. A pilot once noticed a weird woman in a white sari on the runway. He called the airport workers asking to help her, but she disappeared by the time the staff arrived at the spot. Numerous witnesses have seen the same phantom in other parts of the airport. The lady haunted people in the cargo department, on escalators, and even in the parking lot. According to the media, nobody knows her background or the reason why she's here. Maybe her luggage was lost and she's just trying to get it back. Today, Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok is one of the busiest airports in the world. But it doesn't stop this transport hub from also holding the title of the most haunted place in Thailand. Although imagination tends to draw something old and dusty when we hear the word haunted, Suvarnabhumi is relatively new. It started operating in 2006, but it turned out that the land under the airport used to be an ancient burial site. Work crews had to drain a marshland called Cobra Swamp to prepare the land plot for building. And mysterious events began to occur from the very first days of work. Wailing, creepy screams, and even classic music came out of nowhere. Some builders refused to continue construction because they were too scared of evil forces. The locals believed that they had angered the entities who were sleeping beneath the new airport. That's why 99 Thai monks were invited to perform a ritual. Together, they chanted for 9 weeks to clear all the bad vibes. The ceremony was almost finished, but suddenly a random man interrupted the monks and claimed to be possessed by one of the local entities. His message was pretty clear. You should build a proper spirit house to guarantee the smooth operation of the airport. Having said that, he fainted. Later, the guy woke up feeling normal and conscious. Well, the airport authorities decided to fulfill the mysterious request. Spirit houses are part of Thai traditional beliefs. Landowners build nice tiny shrines to establish friendships with invisible entities who might inhabit their plots of land. So, if you ever find yourself at the Bangkok airport, don't forget to check out this artifact, as well as the churning of the ocean, the remarkable sculptures that depict the ancient Hindu myth. The story is basically about light and dark deities working together to get Amrita, the beverage of immortality. Now, here's another reason why you should think twice before building a transport hub on questionable land. Welcome to Denver International Airport, reportedly one of the most famous haunted airports in the world. It stands on a special isolated plot of land that was considered sacred by its former residents, according to the media. People reported multiple problems and strange incidents going on at the airport from the very beginning of construction. Today, this place attracts numerous mystery hunters, and the number of urban legends around the airport multiplies. Some investigate the hidden meaning behind the local murals and gargoyles. Others believe that the giant cobalt-colored horse statue in front of the airport is haunted. That's because the sculpture, known as Lucifer, took the life of its creator, Luis Jimenez. In 2006, a piece came loose and hit the sculptor while he was finishing his work. The airport's enormous layout and remote location inspire some people to speculate that there's a secret bunker under it. In fact, it's bigger than some real cities like San Francisco, for example. But the spokesman of the airport debunked that myth, saying that this transport hub must support at least 50 million travelers a year, and thus it needs to be huge. Our next destination may inspire you to revisit the Langoliers, created by the legendary horror writer Stephen King. Although the thriller took place at King's hometown airport in Bangor, Maine, we'll be talking about the historic Chandler Airport, located in Fresno, California. This place has many abnormal stories to tell, including reports of people going through the old terminal wall. Some passengers heard disembodied voices in the airport restaurant. The kitchen staff once reported hearing a suspicious noise while cleaning up. They went to see what was going on and witnessed a plate moving across the counter and then falling onto the floor. Perhaps the invisible customer was just upset by overly high food prices. Hey, it could happen. Just like Honolulu Airport, Chandler has a resident phantom. It's an old man in the control tower. Thankfully, this guy doesn't bother anybody. According to witnesses, he's just staring at the field as if he's watching invisible aircraft take off and land. Meanwhile, the urban legend behind Savannah Hilton Head International Airport is spooky and romantic at the same time. It says the following: if you land right after sundown, you'll get the chance to see two phantoms along the north side of the runway. Now, the legend says these are the phantoms of Richard and Catherine Dotson, who used to live on the land underneath the airport. They don't bother the passengers or staff either. It seems like they're just greeting arriving people. Now, our list can't be complete without the UK's Manchester Airport. This busy place serves around 28 million passengers a year and also hosts a few spooky phantoms. Passengers and staff reported seeing creepy figures and weird phenomena, such as doors slamming on their own. The airport archives from the 1970s revealed that some staff refused to show up at Terminal 3 alone after dark because they were too scared. One night, the local workers saw a figure in a pilot's hat entering a toilet. No flights were scheduled to arrive or depart at that time, so he decided to follow the mysterious gentleman. But the bathroom was empty, and the motion-sensitive lights didn't show any reaction to the stranger. Some people reported meeting face-to-face with a phantom of a pilot in an old-school uniform. He usually wanders around Terminal 3 looking disoriented. But unfortunately, no one knows his backstory for sure. Another spooky resident of the airport is the Night Watchman, a phantom of a security guard from the 1960s. A former airport employee once met this gentleman and tried to talk to him, but the figure simply vanished into thin air, leaving the poor guy in shock. After that, he decided to leave his job for good. I can understand that.